Welcome to Sultai Delver. Hope you're excited to get some Death Shadow and Delvers going. But yeah, let's just go and jump into the deck. So we're playing Sultai Delver, and let's go and start off with Delver himself, the star of the show. So if you're not familiar with Delver, Delver's a 1-drop. We get it down for 1. Then at the beginning of your upkeep, you look at the top card of your library. If it's an instant or sorcery card, we may reveal it, and that's going to turn Delver into a 3/2. Now, the core concept of any Delver deck is basically we're running a lot of removal, counterspell, different things like that. We want to get down Delver on turn 1, get it to flip as quickly as possible, and then use those instant and sorceries, whether it's removal, counterspells, direct damage, something like that to kind of help us close the game out, and at the same time using a 3/2 flyer to pressure our opponent. But with the modern build of Delver, it's not really kind of like the legacy build. It's one of those, like, if we get Delver flipped, awesome, we can swing in, awesome. Outside of Delver, we're running some really good creatures that help us also put some good pressure on our opponent. Running 3 copies of Death Shadow. This is definitely one of those decks to where we want to be as aggressive as possible with our life total, and especially with us running Thoughtseize in here. You get down your fetch land, shock, and then it'll put us in a position where we can really start going for those Death Shadows, and it's a great way to kind of bounce back from, let's say that we do get down Delver and it does flip, and our opponent uses Path to Exile or Lightning Bolt or something like that. Rebounding with the Death Shadow is a wonderful way to kind of reset the game and kind of keep that pressure up on our opponent. Now, one of the cards that works out really well with Delver is going to be Grim Flayer. Actually works out really well. So if we get Delirium active, it turns into a 4/4, which is always nice. But with that combat trigger, whenever it deals damage, we can look at the top 3 cards of our library, and we get to put whatever we want into the graveyard out of those 3, or put them on top of our library. So let's say that we're having trouble flipping our Delver. We can go for Grim Flayer. If we connect on that combat damage, we can put an instant or sorcery on top, and then also allow us to, kind of start working towards Delirium for Grim Flayer, and at the same time making sure that our Delvers get flipped and start swinging for some really nice damage. So there's some really nice synergy between Grim Flayer and Delver, and at the same time building up our graveyard. Now, for dumping cards into the graveyard, one of the ways that we can really take advantage of that is going to be stuff like Gurmag Angler. We're running Thought Scour in here, so one of the best things that you can do is, turn 1 Delver. Let's say you've gotten lucky, you go for a Thought Scour. There's just a lot of times where we're looking at a turn 2, turn 3 Gurmag Angler, and it is one of the best feelings in the world. So that's another way that we can build our graveyard. Now, depending on what we kind of draw into our hand, we're also running Tarmogoyf in here, which that kind of does cut at Gurmag Angler just a little bit. And so it just kind of depends on what your opening hand is. If you have Tarmogoyf, if you're building your graveyard for Tarmogoyf, you don't really want to delve it away with Gurmag Angler, but it's going to be completely dependent on whatever sort of match you're playing against. But they're both in the deck. They do kind of compete for the graveyard at times, but most of the time, you can basically just kind of decide which one to kind of start pushing and dealing the most damage to your opponent. We're also running Snapcaster in here. That's going to be one of the utility creatures to help make sure that we can keep our graveyard online, because we're going for a ton of graveyard interactions. So that's going to be the creatures that we are running in the deck. As far as sorceries, we are running 3 Inquisition of Kozilek's and 3 Thoughtseizes. We're also running 4 copies of Mishra's Bauble. This is a way for us to, get some good delve fuel into the graveyard for Gurmag Angler, and at the same time really kind of pump up Tarmogoyf really quick. It's a great way to kind of push it into a 3/4 on turn 2 sometimes, depending on what your opponent's got going on in their graveyard. Now, as far as some of the instant and sorceries, we're running 4 copies of Thought Scour. This is absolutely crucial to the deck. This helps us propel those Gurmag Anglers out really quick and build up a nice graveyard for Tarmogoyf, for Snapcaster. This is the cantrip for the deck. It is wonderful. I love it. It never gets tired going for Thought Scour. It's just such a good card. Now, one of the cards that I absolutely love is near and dear to my heart. Is going to be Grisly Salvage. This is a wonderful card for Sultai Delver, a deck like this. You have this in your opening hand. Instantly you're going to be able to kind of feel your graveyard for Gurmag Angler. You can use it as a combat trick with Tarmogoyf. Let's say you're swinging in with the 2/3. You can cast Grisly Salvage and hopefully, maybe get a few extra different card types into the graveyard. And at the same time, late game, let's say that a lot of your creatures have been destroyed or something. Ripping into a Grisly Salvage is going to be awesome because, this deck does operate on about 3 to 4 mana with the lands in here, but you draw into Grisly Salvage, you hit something like Death Shadow, you hit Gurmag Angler, you hit Tarmogoyf. No matter what sort of creature you hit, you're basically going to be able to get it down with Grisly Salvage and still kind of keep that threat up. So it's a wonderful way for us to just basically kind of numerous ways. It's the glue that holds this deck together, basically. I love it, casting it. It is so good. We're also running 3 copies of Stubborn Denial. This is a way for us to, once we get down Gurmag Angler, we can stop some of our key spot removal from our opponents and catch some good non-creature spells and go for some nice Force Spike action if our opponent's not playing around Force Spike. I don't know, it's a lot of fun. 3 copies of Fatal Push, and then 2 copies of Assassin's Trophy. Now, as far as your instant and sorcery spread, this is completely dependent upon your meta, but you do want your, you want to have a high amount of instant and sorceries in the deck to get those Delvers to flip. But for the most part, if you want to go a few more Abrupt Decays, more Fatal Pushes, just really depends on your meta. Now, as far as the sideboard goes, this is kind of a little bit more of a transformational sideboard, but not super crazy. Since we are only running 18 lands in this deck, and it actually does work out because, pretty much everything tops out about 2 or 3. In case we need to kind of shift it into a little bit more of a mid-range Sultai deck, I'm actually running 4 lands in the sideboard. It's going to be 2 Watery Graves and 2 Overgrown Tombs. Like I mentioned, this deck is really more of a control style deck, mid-range style deck. So depending on what you want to do, your sideboard is going to be completely different. But I found a lot of success with this. And that's, let's say we're playing against Jund or something like that, where they have a ton of removal, a ton of hand disruption. You want to be able to make sure you're always making your land drops and kind of shift it into that mid-range deck. So we can cut the Mishra's Baubles and throw those 4 lands in there. It puts it back up to about 22 lands. And then we're running 2 copies of Nile Spellbomb. And that's going to be our good graveyard source and also kind of keep our graveyard intact. And at the same time, we're also running 2 Tarmogoyfs in here. That's going to allow us to kind of, in those mid-range matchups, bring 2 more Tarmogoyfs in to just kind of have something that's going to be a late-game threat. And then 2 copies of Kalitas. I love Kalitas. This is a wonderful card for Modern. We get this down, we go for those Fatal Pushes, we go for those Abrupt Decays, those Assassin Trophies. Being able to have some sort of amplifying effect to turn your opponent's creatures into zombie tokens is pretty much what this deck wants to do if you're shifting it into kind of that mid-range gear style. And also running 2 copies of Liliana the Veil to attack our opponent's hand and 1 copy of Liliana the Last Hope. Like I mentioned, as far as your sideboard goes, completely open to whatever you want to throw in there. Tireless Tracker would be a wonderful addition to the deck, and something like Ashiok, it's really go wild. Have fun. It's Sultai. There's not really a standard Sultai list out there, and so just kind of find out what works for you. But that's going to be it for the deck tech. I have 3 wonderful gameplay videos up for you right now, so stick around and watch. Bye. Welcome to Sultai Delver. As far as our opening hand goes, we have no lanes in our hand. Even though it is tempting with Mishra's Bauble, we're going to go on Mulligan. Not super wild about that opening hand. Yes, I like this. We have Gurmag Angler, Death Shadow, Trophy, and Thoughtseize. We will keep on this one. Hopefully the Scry treats as well. With Death Shadow, let's go and put that on the bottom. If we had double fetch lanes, I would be tempted to put Death Shadow on top. But let's go and put it on the bottom for right now. And then we're going to go ahead and let our opponent get the game going. But yes, welcome to some Sultai Delver. Hope you're ready to grind out some fun matches today. Always like playing this deck. Let's go and lead off with, if we're working towards a Death Shadow, let's go ahead and start working towards our life total. So let's go ahead and crack Pluto Delta. Let's go ahead and grab a green, go for Overgrown Tomb. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go and shock an Overgrown Tomb. We're going to go and pay 2 life on this one. Let's go and go for Thoughtseize up top, and let's see what our opponent's got cooking in their kitchen. So we're looking at Kolagon's Command, Shadow of Doubt, Shadow of Doubt. Okay, so at least we know that Shadow of Doubt is coming whenever we go for Misty. At this point right now, let's go and go for Kolagon's Command, because with us basically knowing about Shadow of Doubt, we don't really have to... we can time our fetches to where we don't have to worry about it anymore. Now, the other cool thing about them going for Shadow of Doubt is that we're probably looking at some sort of Jund Assassin Trophies deck. That way they can go for Assassin's Trophy, destroying our lands. But let's say that we end up going for a Shadow of Doubt. We crack one of our fetch lands, they go for Shadow of Doubt. With Shadow of Doubt, it says players can't search their libraries this turn. So basically what we can do is if they go to cycle Shadow of Doubt, we can go for Assassin's Trophy to blow up one of their lands, which that sounds pretty fun. I don't mind at least kind of making that trade. They do have 2 more lands in their hand, which is going to make it significantly less better for us to go for Assassin's Trophy. But you never know. Might end up going for that. And then we draw into Fatal Push. If we want to leave up the Assassin's Trophy line of play, that's what we need to go for if we want to get down Dark Slick Shores. Yeah, there's just nothing we can do. If we get down Misty and Crack, they're going to go for Shadow of Doubt in response to that. So let's go and get down Dark Slick Shores, and then we're going to pass the turn to our opponent. Now, if we end up blowing their land, they have Twilight Mire and then Cliffs in their hand. So we'll see which one exactly we want to end up targeting off of our Assassin's Trophy. And that might have been the Cliffs that they got down, because that was a turn. Well, yeah, let's go and cross the Cliffs off. So we'll probably end up targeting as their Black-Red Source. All right, let's go and get down Misty. And basically, at this point right now, we're just kind of in some sort of weird holding pattern. Let's go and get down Misty. Let's go and go for Mishra's Bauble. Let's go and crack Mishra's Bauble. We'll look at the top part of our opponent's library. And and that's going to be a tireless tracker on top. So we'll definitely use our fatal push on that if we can sequence that, and then we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. So we're going to wait for our opponent to crack their fetch land before we crack our fetch land, and then get around that double Shadow of Doubt. Let's go and crack Misty at this point right now. Yeah, because either way, we're looking at Gurmag Angler, and that allows us to go for Assassin's Trophy. So let's go and crack Misty Rainforest. Okay, they will end up going for Shadow of Doubt, which is basically going to cut them off their own fetch land. So we can't search our library. It's going to go for Assassin's Trophy on their Cliffs. I think Cliffs is what we want to go for. Because Twilight Mire's in their hand. Yeah, let's just go and go for Cliffs. That way it cuts them off any sort of mana. Oh, I love Assassin's Trophy. All right, we're going to destroy Cliffs. They can search your library for a basic land card, but since they went for Shadow of Doubt, they cannot search your library, and that's going to cut us off of both lands. So thankfully, we still stay a little bit ahead on mana, and they're stuck at 1. We get to draw a card, and then once they finally do get down Tireless Tracker, that will allow us to go for Fatal Push on Tireless Tracker. They do have Twilight Mire in their hand, and they actually get down Cliffs, so that does put them back on for Shadow of Doubt. But at this point right now, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 cards in our graveyard. That's going to put us in a perfect spot for Gurmag Angler. So, you know, let's go ahead and go for that. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go and go for Gurmag Angler. Exile 5 out of the graveyard. That's basically going to be our entire graveyard. Since we don't have Tarmogoyf, you know, at this point right now, we just need some sort of clock to really start putting some pressure on our opponent. So let's go and go for Gurmag Angler, and then we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. Now, if they do end up cycling the Shadow of Doubt, we'll crack our Pluto Delta definitely for sure, but we want to keep it on the battlefield. That way we can use that Fatal Push to activate Revolt to take care of Tireless Tracker, because Tireless Tracker in a matchup like this, with them making their land drops in different things, it's going to end up being a really good thing for them. All right, they're going to go for Assassin's Trophy. Let's go ahead and crack in response to that. Just to get around that Shadow of Doubt. Well, we'll see, because they're going to get down Tireless Tracker next turn. Yeah, that's fine. Yes, we're going to use Assassin's Trophy. Let's go ahead and grab Swamp at this point right now. Yeah, we definitely have more black in our hands, so we're going to get down Swamp, and we'll see what they decide to get down. Okay, let's go and cross off that Twilight Mire. And then we draw into Watery Grave. Let's go and shock in Watery Grave. We're going to pay 2 life, and that's going to put us in a position where we can actually end up going for Death Shadow. So let's go and go for Death Shadow. Now, if we end up going for Grizzly Salvage, that's going to allow us to maybe kind of dig for something like Gurmag Angler. And if we want to, we can end up going for Pluto Delta, getting something down. Let's just go and pass the turn. We can go for Grizzly Salvage during our opponent's turn, and that'll kind of set us up for a little bit of a bigger turn for next turn. And that way we can at least kind of dodge the Shadow of Doubt, or at the same time, you know, crack Pluto Delta, and that will still end up turning on Fatal Push. So we'll see what our opponent's going to get down. Because either way, even if we don't get the land on the battlefield, that'll still trigger a Revolt once we activate this Pluto Delta. Okay, opponent's going to go for Tarmogoyf. You know, I think it's fine to go for Fatal Push on Tarmogoyf. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go and go for Pluto Delta. Let's at least put Death Shadow at a 2/2. And we'll see if they'll go ahead and crack that last Shadow of Doubt. All right, there we go. So we're going to go for that. Let's go and go for Fatal Push on Tarmogoyf. And let's go and go for Grizzly Salvage. This is going to be a great way for us to dig into our library and find some sort of threat to get onto the battlefield. Ooh, and then we hit Tarmogoyf, which is exactly what we want to see. So let's go and grab Tarmogoyf. Argument could be made for Watery Grave, but at this point, we just want to have bodies on the battlefield at this point right now. Opponent's going to get down on 3/2, and we've got a 5/6 and a 2/2. If we hit a fetch land next turn, we're looking at a 4/4 or a 5/5. So that'll definitely allow us to kind of push past on Tireless Tracker. That will allow them to at least cycle a card with Shadow of Doubt, but with us missing 1 land, that's not the end of the world. We're okay with this interaction. Okay, no search off that Pluto Delta, and let's see what we're drawn to. Drawn to Delver of Secrets. That is an idle lane. Let's go to get down Tarmogoyf. And at this point right now, let's just be as aggressive as possible. So let's go and get down Tarmogoyf. Let's go and get down Delver. A little late to the party, Delver, but it's always nice to see you. Let's go and swing you a Death Shadow for a 2/2. That's going to put them down to 14. And they'll go and pass the turn to our opponent. So we're in a really good position at this point right now. If we hit simply a fetch lane, that's going to allow us to kind of get Death Shadow going. We've got a 5/6 Tarmogoyf on the ground. If we hit an instant or sorcery on top of our library, hopefully there'll be some sort of answer for Tireless Tracker. That's going to get Delver to flip. Either way, we're going to be able to really put some pressure on our opponent and really start attacking their life total. Okay, opponent's going to go for Liliana the Veil. We have no cards in hand. They go for the +1. That's fine. Target player sacks a creature. I guess at this point right now, 5/6 and 2/2 is going to be our best bet. Let's go and get rid of Delver, because Death Shadow is simply just going to get bigger with whatever sort of land that we end up getting, and then Tarmogoyf is going to be able to really start attacking our opponent's life total. So, and even if we don't hit a land, we simply send Death Shadow over to Liliana, and then kind of go from there. Oh, Grim Flare, that is wonderful. Let's go and swing in with Death Shadow at Liliana. Might be watching out for some sort of fatal push from our opponent. But at this point right now, I like sending in Death Shadow at Liliana and Tarmogoyf at our opponent. If they've got fatal push, they've got it. Okay, so we end up taking care of Liliana. That will make Tarmogoyf 6/7/2. Let's go and get down a Grim Flayer. That's going to be green and then black. And I'm pretty sure we do have Delirium active. Yes, we are sitting at a 4/4, and then we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. This is pretty much what this deck wants to do. We get down Delver of Secrets, our opponent was able to take care of it with Liliana the Veil. We get down Grim Flayer, that's going to allow us to dump cards into the graveyard. We can start finding some sort of option. Basically, Grim Flayer is kind of like a brainstorm, like a Golgari brainstorm. Look at the top 3 cards, dump them into the graveyard, or put whatever you need on top. So really, this deck just wants raw card advantage. That's what this deck really wants. So alright, so our opponent did draw under their own Tarmogoyf, and they're basically on a hellbent at this point right now. And we draw into our own copy of Tarmogoyf. Now we swing in with Grim Flare, they're going to block. Let's do this. Let's go and swing in with Tarmogoyf and Grim Flare. We'll probably see Grim Flare block on Tarmogoyf, and that's going to leave us free to swing in with for at least 6/7. And then we can still get down Tarmogoyf on the back end. Yeah, I think I like that. That way, if we do connect with Grim Flayer, we at least get a little extra value. Maybe we can trade with this Tireless Tracker before they get an opportunity to start cracking some clue tokens. Alright, so they will end up blocking. That's going to allow us to get in for 6, put them down to 3. And let's go and get Tarmogoyf back on the battlefield. That would have been nice to have Grim Flayer on the battlefield to kind of start digging, but with us having at least another 6/7, and then next turn we get down a fetch land, that'll really kind of put our opponent in this weird position to where A, they have to get something going with Tireless Tracker to survive, or B, they end up having to go for a Raging Ravine activation to kind of survive. Okay, so they end up going for another activation off that clue token that will make Tireless Tracker a 4/3, and we're looking at a 6/7. So at this point right now, we have pretty much 3 creatures on the battlefield. So depending on what they end up going for, it looks like at this point right now, they're probably just digging for some sort of answer for one of our creatures, because basically we just swing the entire board, especially them tapping down Raging Ravine, and that's going to allow us to deal lethal with them sitting at 2. Okay, opponent's going to go for Dark Confidant. At this point right now, that's simply another body on the battlefield. But we swing 6/7, 6/7. They're going to send the entire crew blocking in. Yeah, we'll still go and push in on this one. Ooh, drawn to Fatal Push. Okay, that is exactly what we wanted to see. Let's go and go for Fatal Push on wonderful top deck. I'll take that. Let's go and go for, I guess at this point right now, we'll go for Tarmogoyf, because that makes our 6/7s a lot better. And especially if they had something like Fatal Push, and they're going to use it. At least we're still going to make that same trade. All right, opponent's going to scoop it up on this one. Now, since we're kind of playing it against an attrition-based deck, we are sitting at 18 lands. Let's go ahead and kind of shift this over into a little bit more of a Sultai good stuff deck. So we're going to go ahead and bring in 4 more lands. We'll kind of make this match just a little bit grindier. So we're going to cut some of the Mishra's baubles. And I think at this point, we're going to get rid of Delver of Secrets. That is a nice card to have. But in this matchup, we really want to attack our opponent's life total or establish some sort of board state. So let's go and bring in these Lilianas. And let's go and bring in double Abrupt Decay. That way it's basically going to hit all of their creatures. It's going to get this sorted by converted mana cost. And then anything else that we want to cut, we do like the Fatal Pushes, Inquisition of Kozilek's. Let's go and back off a Gurmag Angler. Let's go and bang off a Grim Flayer, because we're going to bring in another Tarmogoyf for sure. And if we can somehow work it to where we can get double Kalitas in here, that would certainly work out really well too. Liliana's nice, the last hope, but let's go ahead and get rid of that. And let's go and bring in Kalitas. I'll bring in one more Kalitas. What are we going to cut? Actually, we're just going to cut one more land. I think we'll be able to survive that. Let's get rid of one Overgrown Tomb. Let's go and sort this by converted mana cost. Yeah, basically just kind of shift us off the Delver matchup, especially since with us being on the play. being on the draw, that will at least allow us to kind of sit back and be a little bit more with the control deck in this particular matchup. So I will see you in game 2. Welcome back to game 2. Now, as far as our opening hand goes, I love this is everything that we want to see in an opening hand. We've got Assassin's Trophy. That's going to be a great universal removal. The only downside is opponent does have Leyline of the Void, so that's going to cut off of it's going to cut our Tarmogoyfs off. But once we get our opponent's graveyard going, we can still at least kind of get some sort of value going, and at least they're going to stay the same. So that's not the end of the world with that Leyline of the Void. Let's go and shock in Overgrown Tomb. We're going to pay 2 life on this one because we still have Death Shadow in the deck. So if we do end up drawing into it and we top deck it, simply making sure that our life total is in a position to get down some sort of sizable Death Shadow is definitely to our advantage. And we'll see if our opponent ended up cutting some of those Death Shadows. But if they did, we're in a really good position, because we've got 4 shock lands in here, so got all the shock lands. Dark Confidant. At this point right now, we do have Assassin's Trophy. I think we really want to go for Assassin's Trophy on Dark Confidant. We don't really want to force any sort of card advantage on our opponents. So let's go and get down Polluted Delta. We will be giving them a land on this one, but we're okay with this. Let's go and shock in Watery Grave. Yeah, we're okay with that. Let's go Shock and Water Grave. Let's go and go for Assassin's Trophy. We really need to cut that that card draw off. That's not something that we want to get going. It was funny in game 1 when they dig down Dark Confidant. I was really tempted to simply just pass the turn and be like, all right, let's see if you flip something off of Dark Confidant. So, but they're going to get a basic on the battlefield with Assassin's Trophy, and we'll see what they get rolling for the next turn. Okay, they get a swamp, and then anything else, we're going to kick it back over there. Now, we do have Tarmogoyf. It is sitting at a 2-3. From our opponent's land in their Dark Confidant. Once we end up going for Grizzly Salvage, basically that's going to allow us to kind of dig for another threat to get. Oh, we're looking at Chandra. Okay, so we look at Chandra, exile the top card of your library. So we do need to get down some sort of threat to start putting some pressure on our opponent, Chandra. We are looking at paying the iron price for Kalitas too. That's going to be 4 total mana. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go and go for Tarmogoyf. Let's go and shock in Watery Grave. Yeah, we're okay with that. Let's go Shock and Watery Grave. Let's go and get down Tarmogoyf. Now, unfortunately, with Stubborn Denial, we will not have an active Stubborn Denial, but if they tap out for some sort of non-creature spell for 4 or 5 mana, we've got them on a Force Spike. At least it's kind of good to have. And then, unfortunately, once we get down Kalitas, that will not be something that we can catch with Stubborn Denial, but you never know. Let's say they end up tapping out for something, like a Kolaghan's Command. Maybe they get something else down. We can at least kind of stop that. And now with Kolaghan's Command, that's going to be, let's see, return target 2 damage to any target. So we are sitting at a 2-3 with Tarmogoyf, so we can at least survive that at this point right now. And they are going for Tarmogoyf as a sitting down as a 2-3 and double Tarmogoyf. Okay. Now, thankfully with Kalitas, it does have lifelink. That's going to allow us to kind of shift back into a range of protecting our life total if we don't really hit any sort of Death Shadow. So I know it kind of competes against Death Shadow, but it's one of those just kind of playing the hand that is dealt to us, basically. Let's go and Shock and Breeding Pool. Yes, we're going to pay 2 life. And you know what? Let's go and go for Kalitas. I'm okay with this one. There's not really much we can catch with Stubborn Denial. We're sitting at a 2-3 with Tarmogoyf, so we can basically trade with both of them. And then once we end up getting some sort of removal in our hand, we can start turning some of those Tarmogoyfs into 2-2 zombies, which really allows us to put some pressure on our opponent. Now, the one thing that we do have to watch out for is Chandra getting to an ultimate. They are sitting at 6, and so once they get that ultimate, whenever you cast a spell, this emblem deals 5 damage to any target. That's not going to be a lot of fun. And we're looking at an ultimate for next turn. But, you know, that's what makes Modern fun sometimes is you don't really expect a Chandra and a Jund Death Shadow deck. And the next thing you know, they get it down and they're going to be going for that -7 at some point. So let's see what they end up going for the turn. And then we'll see what we can do to hopefully kind of stabilize. Opponent's going to go for Pulse on Kalitas. Okay. Yeah, that's going to get it. All right, it's going to take care of Kalitas. That does leave the entire Tarmogoyf crew on the board at 3/4s, but thankfully no swinging from our opponent. And let's see what we draw into. Draw into Dark Slick Shores. Okay. I guess at this point, we just simply go for Grizzly Salvage. We need a creature on the battlefield at this point right now. And then Swamp, and then Watery Grave. Let's go ahead and grab Swamp since we are sitting at 5 total life. Let's go ahead and get down Dark Slick Shores. Yeah, because I think if they just have a spell in the hand, they go for the -7. They go for, well, they can swing in with Tarmogoyfs. Either way, we're not in a good position. But basically, they go for the -7 and cast a spell that's going to deal 5 damage to us. So let's see if they do have a spell in the hand. This is not looking so hot for us. And then hopefully, once we go to game 3, maybe we survive this game. But it's not looking. If you're keeping score at home, it's not looking too good. But if we do end up surviving this game, we'll win. But if we go to game 3, we'll be able to kind of hopefully play around that ley line of the void. Okay, but it's going to go for the Chandra Emblem. Let's see if they have a spell in the hand. Yeah, and that's just whenever you cast a spell, doesn't matter. Dark Confidant, oh yeah, he's got a big old smug look on his face. So good game to our opponent. They're going to get it on this one. It's always fun to lose certain ways like that. I don't know, it's kind of fun. Is there any changes that we want to make? Liliana, the Last Hope. We could bring in Nile Spellbomb if we wanted to. I think I kind of like what we've got going on. We can attack our opponent's hand. We've got some good removal. Assassin's Trophy, Abrupt Decay, Fatal Pushes. Yeah, let's just kind of keep the course on this one. You know, we could take out Death Shadow with Kalitas in here, but I just really like the opportunity of getting those zombies going. So if it ends up conflicting with Death Shadow, so be it. But we're going to go and send the same deck back over, and I will see you in game 3. Welcome back to game 3. We are on the play, and as far as our opening hand goes, yeah, I think I like this. We've got Pluto Delta. That's going to be our Black Sorcery Breeding Pool, Fatal Push, Assassin's Trophy. This is wonderful. We'll definitely keep on this one, and we'll see if our opponent's going to start off with another Leyline of the Void, cutting our graveyard off. Doesn't look like they will, so I will definitely take that. Let's go and get down Pluto Delta. Yeah, I like that. We'll get down Pluto Delta and we're going to pass the turn. So that way if our opponent does have some sort of turn 1 hand disruption, that will allow us to go for Stubborn Denial to prevent that, and then also allow us to kind of start working towards our life total and hopefully digging for some sort of threat. And thankfully the Grizzly Salvage, that definitely allows us to kind of get that going. Let's go and crack Pluto Delta. Let's go and grab a Watery Grave. Let's go and shock this one in. There's no better feeling than going for a Stubborn Denial on turn 1. Oh, this feels good. There we go. Get our little blade in the air and stop that Thoughtseize. We'll go and shock in Breeding Pool. Well, do we end up going for Grizzly Salvage? We're going to go for our own Thoughtseize. Yeah, let's go for Thoughtseize of our own. Let's go and do that. That puts us in a position where we go for Grizzly Salvage next turn. All right, so we're looking at Fatal Push and the double Tarmogoyfs. We got Fatal Push, Assassin's Trophy for the Tarmogoyfs, and Lightning Bolt and Fatal Push. Let's just go and take Liliana the Veil at this point right now. Just going to keep this low to the ground creature based at this point right now. Yeah, because, well, they can't even get down Liliana the Veil at this point right now. But we simply just don't want them to get in a position where they can get it down, so I don't mind going for that. So we're going to go and take Liliana the Veil. Let's get their hand pop back up. Let's go and shock it. Do we want to shock in Breeding Pool? Yeah, because if we top deck a Death Shadow, we at least want to be able to get it down. So let's go and shock in Breeding Pool, and we'll go and pass the turn to our opponent. So more than likely, we're going to see Forest come down, and we'll see Tarmogoyf get down. That will put us in a position to go for Fatal Push, to kind of keep the board clear at this point. And then let's see, we draw into Thought Scour. Let's go and get down Island. Let's go and go for a Thought Scour on ourselves. That way, okay, we draw into our own Tarmogoyf. That's going to make us a 5/6. Do we want to go for Fatal Push at this point? Because we can take a 5 hit from that Tarmogoyf. Yeah, let's do this. Let's go for Tarmogoyf. Because we can get a creature on the battlefield, and then next turn, hopefully maybe we hit a Black Source that'll put us on Fatal Push and Assassin's Trophy, and then that'll allow us to still end up going for Fatal Push on Tarmogoyf. They're not really going to be able to swing into us. That does put us in a position where they can, and okay, they're going to go for their own Fatal Push, so we're at least going to force the trade on that. And it's going to cross that Forest off, so we'll be swinging for 5. That puts us down to 8. Then we can go for Fatal Push for next turn, and then at least going to cut them off the other Tarmogoyf that they do have in their hand. And draw into Kalitas. Now, at this point right now, we could go for Grizzly Salvage in hopes of hitting a land, but we have Lightning Bolt in our opponent's hand, so we definitely don't want to do that. So at this point right now, let's just go and pass the turn. We'll go for Fatal Push during our opponent's turn, and then we're going to hold on to our Assassin's Trophy because we want to keep them off any sort of extra mana as soon as possible. Let's go and get them to swing in with Tarmogoyf, and we'll go for that Assassin's Trophy. Oh, excuse me, Fatal Push. Yeah, what we could have done is we could have gone for Grizzly Salvage, but once we get our life total down and Lightning Bolt, that's going to get us really close to a range that we don't really want to be in. Okay, we will see the other Tarmogoyf come down for our opponent. That's going to be a 5/6, and that basically does put us on Assassin's Trophy blocking duty because that's going to be 5 in the air and then 3 from Lightning Bolt. And let's see what we draw into. Draw into Watery Grave. So we shock, that puts us down to 7. That's going to give us some sort of life total to work with. Yeah, we need to go for Assassin's Trophy. Yeah, let's do this. We need to be a little bit careful. So we're going to go ahead and not pay 2 life, because either way, it's not going to do us any good. We can't cast Devil Green. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and pass the turn. We're going to wait for them to swing in with Tarmogoyf. We'll go for Assassin's Trophy on Tarmogoyf. That way we'll still be able to protect ourselves from that lightning bolt. And then hopefully we might be able to get down Kalitas and maybe kind of stabilize in this particular matchup. And the good thing about Kalitas, it is a 3/4, so we'll at least be able to kind of pass the lightning bolt test from our opponent, leave some sort of creature on the battlefield. The only downside is that once we end up going for Assassin's Trophy, that will cut us off going for that 2/2 zombie, but not too bad. We'll still take it. Alright, so I'm going to go for lightning bolt up top. That's going to be 3 damage to us. Yeah, that's fine. It's going to put us at 5, and that's going to leave 2 more cards in their hand, so we'll see what they do end up having. It's going to go for Assassin's Trophy. It's going to get rid of Tarmogoyf. Get out of here, buddy. We want to stick around for this one. Alright, it's going to get rid of Tarmogoyf. That will allow them to get another land on the battlefield. So we'll see what out of those 3 cards out of their hand, if they have anything good to get down. And they got Huntmaster of the Fails, which is going to be a 2/2, and going to be a 2/2 wolf token on the battlefield. Okay. Let's see what we draw into. Drawn to double Grizzly Salvage. That's going to flip if no spells were cast last turn. Let's go and go for Kalitas. In a world of 2/2s, the 3/4 of the lifelink is definitely king. So we're going to get that down, and then we can stop that from swinging in. They will be able to swing in just for a little bit, but at least with that lifelink, we're going to put us back at the same position. And then hopefully, we'll see if they end up swinging in with Huntmaster of the Fells. It'll still give us some sort of a zombie token if they do. Oh, Assassin's Trophy. Bummer. Okay. Yes, we'll definitely use that because that'll allow us to get a land, and hopefully we can kind of rebound with double Grizzly Salvage. That's going to put us all the way down to 1. So we got to get something going. That's a nice play by our opponent. Okay, we draw into Death Shadow. Well, that is definitely an answer. Let's go and go for Death Shadow. That's going to be a 12/12. It's going to go for Grizzly Salvage. That's another Death Shadow, so let's go and grab Death Shadow. The only downside is at this point right now, basically they can get Raging Ravine going, and if we can't stop anything, I think that's going to be it. Maybe they forget about Raging Ravine. We'll keep our fingers crossed, but you can definitely see what this deck is trying to do. Well, maybe no swinging from Raging Ravine. Okay, I'll take that. This still leaves us at a 12/12, and the next time we can go for Grizzly Salvage, and maybe they're worried about some sort of a bounce spell with Raging Ravine. Oh, excuse me, they're going to flip Huntmaster of the Fails. It deals 2 damage to target opponent. Okay, let's go for Grizzly Salvage in response to that. And they do end up target. Yeah, we'll go for Grizzly Salvage. I don't know what we're digging for at this point right now, but who knows? Yeah, that makes a lot more sense now. That's pretty much a guaranteed thing that they can get going. That the Ravager of the Fails activation. All right, they're gonna go for okay. They've got it either way. Double Kolagons, good game to our opponent. You can definitely see where this Sultai deck is kind of like a work in progress. There's different builds that you can certainly go for. My main thing is I want to have playability, and that was definitely a fun match playing against Jun. And there's a reason why Sultai is not a popular deck in Modern. Is it's still just kind of in this weird, growth stage as far as the deck goes. But that was a fun match, and if you enjoyed the games, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye. Welcome to Sultai Delver. As far as our opening hand goes, we've got double Snapcaster, Death Shadow, Inquisition of... Snapcasters, where were you last game? Yeah, I like this one. We're going to keep on this one. We definitely work towards that life Death Shadow. Once we get down Polluted Delta, Crack, and then Shock, Watery Grave, Overgrown Tomb. Yes, I like that a lot. But yes, Snapcaster is in the deck, even though we didn't see him last game. Let's go and get down Polluted Delta. Let's go and crack Polluted Delta. And let's go and grab a green-blue source. Is that what we ended up going for? Yeah, let's go for Watery Grave. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Let's go and Shock and Watery Grave. We're going to pay 2 life. Let's go and go for Inquisition of Kozilek. And let's see what our opponent's got cooking in their kitchen. Alright, so we're looking at double... Looks like we're playing against mono black good stuff. Double Fatal Push and Vampire Nighthawk. At this point right now, since we simply do not have removal, let's just go and take Vampire Nighthawk. That's one of those cards we just simply just don't want to play against. It's Death Touch, Flying, and Lifelink. A lot of respect for that card, so hopefully we'll find a way to kind of fight past this Fatal Push. But looking at what we saw in our opening hand, looks like we're playing against some sort of just mono black deck, which can be fun. It's definitely very viable in Modern. Let's go and Shotgun Overgrown Tomb. We have to watch out for the Phyrexian Obliterator. That's the nightmare of that deck. We don't want to see that one. Let's go and get down Grim Flayer, and we'll go and pass the turn to our opponent. We'll see if that's going to force the Fatal Push crack on our opponent. Here we go. We're going to cross one of those off, and then we can still get down Death Shadow. We might end up going for Snapcaster Inquisition of Kozilek on that last Fatal Push in their hand. That'll allow them to either go for Fatal Push on Snapcaster, and then that'll kind of clear the way for Death Shadow to get down. So let's go and get down Polluted Delta. Let's go and crack, and let's grab a Overgrown Tomb. There we go. Let's go and shock this one in. We're going to pay 2 life. Let's go and go for Snapcaster. Oh, helps if we tap for blue mana. There we go. Blue mana, then black, and then we'll be able to go for that Inquisition of Kozilek out of our graveyard. There we go. Choose Inquisition of Kozilek. And I think, yeah, we did. Let's go and cross off one of those islands. Those swamps. Okay, they ended up going for Fatal Push. Let's go and cross that one off. We'll still end up going for Inquisition of Kozilek, just because we want to see if they drew into something else. So let's go and cross that swamp off, and we'll see what they've got in their opening. Oh, drew into another Fatal Push. Okay, I'll take that. So it's basically going to leave 2 lanes in their hand, and that should clear the way for Death Shadow to start dealing some damage to our opponent. So let's go and pass the turn over to our opponent. There we go. Sorry, I have the hotkey set up, and it wasn't hotkeying to where we could pass it over there. But yeah, this is pretty much what we're going to get going with Sultai Delver. You know, get some sort of threat on the battlefield. We're looking at Death Shadow for next turn. Once we shock Watery Grave, that'll put Death Shadow down to a 3/3. And then we can really just start swinging in our opponent. All right, let's go and shock in Watery Grave. It's going to put us down to 10. Let's go and go for Death Shadow. Now, unfortunately, with Death Shadow being a 3/3, that does turn us off Stubborn Denial. But at this point right now with Stubborn Denial, let's say they tap out for Liliana the Veil or something like that, we can still catch it with Stubborn Denial. So it's still a good card. You know, there's a lot of times where you can definitely catch some sort of spell from your opponent, whether it's some sort of Persecutor. Okay, Flying Trample. You can't win the game. Your opponents can't lose the game. Okay, so that'll definitely be interesting. We have no removal in our graveyard, but we still do have Snapcaster Mage, so we'll see what we can't get going off of this one. Drawn to Delver of Secrets. Let's go and get down Delver. Yeah, and then we're just going to go past the turn. With the Persecutor, you can't win the game, and your opponents can't lose the game. All right, so we can't lose the game, and then basically with Persecutor, they start attacking our life total. It's really going to allow us to get a really nice Death Shadow going. That'll definitely turn on Ferocious, so we'll see what they get down. Let's go and cross off that Stronghold and see what else they're going to end up going for. They're going to go for Gonti. I love this mono black build. This is a pretty sweet build. Okay, we're going to see Gonti come down. Let's see what they're going to take off of this one. This is pretty cool. Just a little bit of a heads up. I am recording in the tournament practice room because when I build these modern decks, these aren't... I build modern decks in mind of, like, this is something you would take to a Friday Night Magic. You know, this is a little bit more of a competitive build of what you would take to a Friday Night Magic, but, you know, you could take this to a Star City game or a Grand Prix event if you wanted to. But, you know, I feel like there's a lot of room to still have fun in Modern, and playing in the tournament practice room, you kind of encounter some really cool decks that kind of keep you on your toes. And as you can tell, we're playing it's a mono black Persecutor and Gonti deck, so yeah. Pretty cool. All right, so it's going to put us down to 4. That does make our Death Shadow a 9/9. And then hopefully we'll see if this Delver is going to be able to flip or not. And, yeah, kind of go from there. See what we draw into. That definitely does turn on Stubborn Denial. And Delver of Secrets. Not going to reveal that card because that does not turn our Delver on. Let's go and swing in with Death Shadow. That's going to be the trade with Gonti. It's going to cut us off Stubborn Denial. Yeah, we're fine with that. Well, do we want to? That's going to be Death Touch. Swinging for 9/9. Basically, just going to trade with Gonti. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go and swing in with Death Shadow. Either way, maybe we attack their life total, give them down to 11. They don't block. They're going to have to find some sort of answer for their Persecutor to get that off the battlefield. All right, so we end up trading with Gonti. Let's go and get down double Delver. If we get double Delvers to flip, oh, that's going to be nice. And there's nothing else we can cast out of the graveyard, so we're simply just going to go and pass the turn to our opponent and see what's in store for us. They did exile something, well, no, excuse me, yeah, we do have one card exiled, so we'll see what that one card is. I'm not entirely sure what that is. That's one of the downsides. I love playing Gonti, but whenever we have Gonti played against us, we don't get to see what they exiled, so it always kind of drives me nuts. All right, so we've got Persecutor swinging in for a 6. That's going to put us down to -2. And then, once again, they just need to find some sort of spot removal for their demon. Now, the cool thing about that is once we get Stubborn online, as I said, we can counter any sort of removal spell that they go for their own creature. Okay, Vampire Nighthawk. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Get out Vampire Nighthawk, and then we will need to find some sort of spot removal for that, because that basically kind of negates both of our Delvers. Alright, let's see what the reveal is. Dark Slick Shores. No, we do not want to reveal that card. That is very unfortunate. We're running a ton of instant sorceries in here. Let's go and get down Dark Slick Shores, and then I guess at this point we'll just simply go and pass the turn. You know, we're not really under any super pressure from our opponent. They simply can't win the game. And so, as long as that Persecutor stays on the battlefield, and if they want to start swinging with the 6/6, that's, you know, we'll just make our Death Shadows really big. I'm pretty sure that still interacts with Death Shadow that way. Okay, so at this point, they simply, well, okay, let's say they could simply just hold back Persecutor if they wanted to. Attacking our life totals, you know, that's always nice, but gaining some life definitely kind of helps them in a situation of we have to, you know, that much more life that we have to end up attacking. Okay, so opponent's going to go for Gatekeeper. Target player sacrifices a creature, and I think they... Let's see who they end up targeting. I'm pretty sure they're going to target themselves, and that's going to be us losing the game. I don't think there's anything we can do about it. Yeah, they target themselves. Of course. Who are you going to... All right, so opponent's going to win it on this one. There you go, mono black control. But yeah, this is why I like playing in the tournament practice room. You get to see some pretty cool stuff like that. Let's go and bring in double Abrupt Decays. Is there anything else that we want to bring up in this particular matchup to help us? I like the Abrupt Decays. I still kind of like being low to the ground with Delver of Secrets. That does make us not, you know, really tempted to take out Delver for staring down some Vampire Nighthawks. That doesn't sound that much fun. Yeah, we're looking at Fatal Pushes off of that. Yeah, let's, well, you know, if we've got some sort of answer for that, well, we're also staring at the Persecutor too. Yeah, let's go and cut the Delvers. I'm usually not wild about that in particular matchup. Let's go and bring in Kali Test. It's going to be a little more of a grindier matchup. And let's see if we can't find a little bit more room for Tarmogoyf. I think that would definitely help us out. Let's go and back off double Mishra's Bobble. And let's bring in 2 Tarmogoyfs. Yeah, I like that. That way it's a little bit more low to the ground. And now I think about it, let's go and cut the baubles. Let's go and bring in a Watery Grave and an Overgrown Tomb. That way we can just kind of, you know, smooth out some of that land count. Well, we've got 4 Delvers, we've got 3 Death Shadows. You know, it's always nice to have 18 lands, but if you're kind of shifting more into Kalitas and Tarmogoyfs, you want to have a little bit more lands in here. But we'll go and send this one over to Game 2. All right, welcome back to Game 2. As far as our opening hand goes, we've got Gurmag Angler, Kalitas, and Tarmogoyf. We're looking at a 1-2 once we get that land into the graveyard. Yeah, I think I like this. We'll go and keep on this one, at least. Very early on turn 1 play, we do have Stubborn Denial at the very least, and that'll make a 2-3 Tarmogoyf, so I think we're okay with this one. Let's go and get down Misty Rainforest. That way we'll kind of crack it if we need to, and that also allows us to kind of start working towards you know, if we finally do draw into Death Shadow, or kind of getting our graveyard going for Gurmag Angler. That is the only downside, is that we do have Gurmag Angler and Tarmogoyf competing at this point right now, but we're actually pretty far away from Gurmag Angler, so I kind of like going for this. So let's go and crack Misty. Let's go and shock in. We've got Dark Slick Shores. I think at this point we would have more access to green at this point, so let's go and shock in Overgrown Tomb. Yeah, I think I like that. Let's go Shock and Overgrown Tomb. We're going to pay 2 life. Yeah, if we draw into Death Shadow, we want to get that going. Oh, draw into Watery Grave. I like that. Let's go and Shock in Watery Grave. Yes, we're going to pay that 2 life. And at this point right now, we're probably looking at a Fatal Push. I'd like to play around it if possible. And I know if we wait until next turn, that will allow them to, you know, get around a Stubborn Denial. But maybe they get something going out of the graveyard. I'd like to just at least have access to Stubborn Denial if possible. Maybe they get down some sort of 2-drop, and then it'll still allow us to protect Tarmogoyf for... Alright, they end up going for Gifted Aetherborn. It's going to be a 2-3 with lifelink. Yeah, that's fine. I just like having access to Stubborn Denial if possible. Who knows, maybe we can make it work. Alright, so we draw into Grizzly Salvage. Okay. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and shock in Overgrown Tomb. Because we go for Grizzly Salvage, it's going to be 4 cards in the graveyard. That should be pretty quick. Gurmag Angler. It'll definitely cut them off any sort of fatal push action. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go and shock in Overgrown Tomb. Let's go for Grizzly Salvage. That's going to be double Grim Flayers and Misty. Since we do have Dark Slick Shores, I think we just really want to grab Grim Flayer at this point right now. Let's dump those cards into the graveyard. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, we can end up going for Gurmag Angler. That's going to get rid of our entire graveyard. It's going to turn off Grim Flayer and Tarmogoyf. Yeah, let's just go and pass the turn. I think I'm okay with waiting on this one. Because what we can do is once we get down Gurmag Angler, we'll still be able to have access to Stubborn Denial to stop some sort of removal spell. Or at the very least, if we draw into another fetch land, we can at least get down Grim Flayer or Tarmogoyf or something like that. And then still have that protection. Because we are looking at least, at this point right now, opponent's going to go for Duress. Non-creature, non-land card. So basically, that's just simply just going to be Stubborn Denial. So we're okay with this trade. As far as Delirium goes for Grim Flayer, we're looking at land in the graveyard. We do have an instant in the graveyard, and we do have a creature in the graveyard. So unfortunately, at this point right now, we do not have Delirium active. But at least we're looking at Tarmogoyf and Grim Flayer. And at this point right now, we're not really going to try to, especially with them getting rid of Stubborn Denial. We're basically, our game plan at this point right now is to deploy Tarmogoyf and Grim Flayer. And then if they do have some sort of spot removal, that'll allow us to get down Gurmag Angler as basically kind of cleanup duty on this one. Let's go to get down Dark Slick Shores. And let's go for Tarmogoyf. That Stubborn Denial is beautiful top deck. But let's getting down Tarmogoyf. That's going to be a 4/5. That's going to be able to protect us from any sort of spot removal from our opponent. So that was a wonderful, yeah. Let's go for that. Stubborn Denial. Oop, helps if we tap for blue mana. There we go. And that's always nice whenever opponent goes for some sort of hand disruption, and we can kind of stop that from happening. So now if they do have Fatal Push, so be it, but at least they're going to have to spend 2 cards to get rid of what we've got going on our side of the battlefield. Okay, but it's going to go for Gatekeeper, and they will end up making us sacrifice a creature, so that'll be Tarmogoyf. And I think at this point, yeah, we are still sitting at 3 cards in our graveyard. Now, they used to, whenever you played Grim Flayer, they used to put the stuff in the graveyard, whether you had Delirium or not, but, actually, draw the Inquisition of Kozilek, that's really good. Let's go for Inquisition up top. And that's going to be Argyl's Bloodfast, and then a Gifted Aetherborn. Do we want to stare down 2 Death Touches and 2 Lifelinks? If they get Argyl's Bloodfast going, so be it. Yeah, let's go and take Gifted Aetherborn. Let's go for Grim Flayer. That will end up being a 4/4. Now, if we end up going for Gurmag Angler, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That will turn off, unfortunately, that will turn off Gurmag Angler at this point. That will turn off Delirium for Grim Flayer. Actually, I think we can still make it work. Let's go Gurmag Angler. It's going to be 1, 2, leave a land in there. We can go for 2 instants. Let's get rid of Grizzly Salvage. We have Grim Flayer. We can go for Tarmogoyf. Yeah, excuse me. No, we've got this. We can go for Tarmogoyf, and then I think at this point we want to leave Abrupt Decay in the graveyard. So we can still get down Gurmag Angler, still maintain Delirium. With exactly 4 card types in the graveyard, and let's just go and pass the turn to our opponent. So at this point right now, if they decide to swing in with Gifted Aetherborn, we're definitely going to trade on this one. Maybe end up trading with Gurmag Angler, because we want to be able to start swinging with Grim Flayer to really kind of start digging into our library. Now, once we do get down Kali Test, that'll definitely allow us to hopefully start trading some of our opponent's creatures into, turn them into zombies. It'd be pretty good. Our opponent's going to go for Gonti. I was going to cross off Gonti, and let's see what they end up getting off of this Gonti flip. It's still weird to see Gonti. I mean, Gonti's a good card, It's just one of those, I've never thought about using him for Modern, but him or her, but we'll see. Might have to throw Gonti in this deck if we want to have some little bit of fun out of the sideboard. All right, so we draw into Death Shadow. So we're staring down a ton of Death Touchers at this point right now. If we swing it with Grim Flayer, we'll at least be able to get that trigger going. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go and swing it with Grim Flayer. And I'm undecided if we want to get down Death Shadow or Kali Test. So I guess technically we could have gotten down Kali Test to get a 2/2 zombie on the battlefield. But I just kind of want to see what's on the top part of our library at this point right now. All right, so we're looking at Tarmogoyf, Abrupt Decay, and Stubborn Denial, which is really everything that we want to see. I kind of like Abrupt Decay on this one. So, and also like Stubborn Denial, but I'm not sure if that's exactly what we need to be drawing into. Because if we go for Kali Test, then that puts us on Abrupt Decay for next turn, or if we want to put Abrupt Decay on top, then we can go for Death Shadow and Tarmogoyf next turn, and then start really attacking our opponent's life total. Yeah, I like all of these cards, actually, now that I think about it. Let's go for Stubborn Denial on top. Let's put Abrupt Decay on top, and let's go and put Tarmogoyf on top. Let's go and get down Kali Test, because at this point right now, that's going to allow us to stabilize. And with us going for Death Shadow, you know, this having lifelink, that kind of makes this Death Shadow a little bit tough. I know we could have gotten down Kali Test and at least forced a 2/2 zombie with that particular trade with Grim Flayer, but I kind of wanted to see what was on top of our library before we decided to end up going for Death Shadow or not. And I like what we've got going on top. That allows us to basically kind of sit back. We can start swinging with Gurmag Angler now and not have to worry about us gaining some life and getting rid of Death Shadow. All right, so we got Gifted Aetherborn swinging in. I think we make this trade with Gurmag Angler. That's going to be a 2/2 zombie. I mean, that cuts us off of 5/5, but getting rid of Death Touch, I think, is pretty good in this matchup. So, all right, so we end up with the 2/2 zombie on the battlefield. Now, one of the things that we definitely want to keep in mind with Kali Test is that whenever we can go for a 3-mana activation, sacrifice another zombie, put 2/+1 counters on Kali Test. So that's something we want to keep in mind. My opponent's going to go for Gatekeeper, see if they end up targeting us, which, yeah, more than likely they do. So that will get rid of the zombie. But at least, we, you know, a 3/4 can definitely survive in a bunch of 2/2s. So, and they will finally end up getting down that Argyl's Bloodfast. So we've got ourselves a match now. Let's go and get down Tarmogoyf. We're going to get down Death Shadow too. Do we want to swing in with Kali Test at this point? Yeah, let's do this. Let's go and get down Tarmogoyf. And then we're going to get down Death Shadow. And basically at this point, we're just simply just going to leave Kali Test back as our blocker. And then that way we can really kind of start pushing in with Death Shadow and start pushing in with Tarmogoyf. And that way we're not really kind of getting our life total in this point to where we're not really going to be able to take advantage of Death Shadow. But now that I think about it, if we swing in with Kali Test, we can swing in for a 3/4, get their life total down. That's going to put us at 10, and that'll give us a 3/3. So it'll kind of basically put us at this kind of like up and down Death Shadow, and I think I kind of like that. So let's go and swing in with Kali Test as a 3/4. If they want to trade, that'll give us a 2/2 zombie, give us another creature. If not, we really need to start pushing in on their life total. And let's go and go for Death Shadow. There we go. Get that down, then we're going to go and pass the turn. So we do have Abrupt Decay on top of our library. Once we get Abrupt Decay going, that will allow us to kind of get rid of one of their creatures, and then basically start swinging with Tarmogoyf and Death Shadow, and chipping away at that 24 life total. Okay, so our opponent will end up going for Fatal Push on Death Shadow. Like I said, it's not the end of the world. They end up going for that. And then, they end up going for Fatal Push, and they're going to have to go for Tarmogoyf on this one, because if they end up going for, they don't have Revolt active. If they end up going for Fatal Push on Kali Test, they're not going to be able to target it because they can't, they have no cards in hand and they do not have Revolt active. So that will at least force them to get rid of Tarmogoyf. Okay. So we're okay with this particular trade. They swing it for 2, puts us down to 6, and it still puts us in a position to where we can sit back with Kali Test and then pick off one of the Gate Creepers. Oh, they grabbed our Snapcaster, duh. I was just like, in my head, sometimes you get stuck into commentary, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're playing against Mono Black, and they cast Snapcaster. So that's where that came from. If we go for Abrupt Decay, that will put Snapcaster back into our graveyard and give us a 2/2 zombie. I think at this point right now, what we'll probably end up doing is simply just seeing if they decide to swing in, and then that way we can go for Abrupt Decay and catch a zombie, and then have something to kind of hopefully kind of stabilize with. All right, so I'm going to go for Argyle Bloodfast activation. All All right, they go for Vampire Nighthawk, which we will definitely end up using Abrupt Decay on that one because we don't really want to play around any sort of Death Touch. We can stabilize at some point with Kalitas. So let's see. All right, no swinging from our opponent. Let's go and go for this Abrupt Decay on Vampire Nighthawk. Either way, this has been a fun match. You can definitely see how good Gonti is. You know, they got down Snapcaster, so that's pretty cool. All right, so we end up with a 2-2 zombie on the battlefield, and then we draw into Stubborn Denial, which we definitely do not have. All right, so we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. I'm not going to be swinging in at this point right now. They swinging in on the back end, and they kind of go from there. Now, if I'm our opponent, I would definitely be as aggressive as possible with this Argos Bloodfast. They're going to be able to go for 3 activations per turn. That does kind of put them in this weird position to where maybe they don't want to be super aggressive, but yeah, you definitely want to be aggressive with an Argos Bloodfest, and they are. I like that. Now, depending on if they get down another piece of removal, we still have Stubborn Denial, and with them going for these activations, that's really going to cut them down on mana, so maybe that might work out to our advantage with them going for all these activations. Okay, opponent will end up going for Duress. I guess at this point, yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll just go let it go through. If we go for Stubborn Denial, then they're just not going to pay the 1. They'll be like, okay, we're good. Cards in hand 0? Oh, yeah, well, that's fine. I'm not going to pay it. Maybe they do. But either way, they're not going to have it for Argos Bloodfast. So hopefully we can just kind of stabilize at this point with Kalitas. And then, you know, one of the good things about this deck is if we hit Grizzly Salvage, that allows us to bounce back pretty well. Now, since we are staring down some sort of hand disruption from our opponent, we're going to go and hold on to Polluted Delta at this point right now. We're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. This deck pretty much tops out at 4 total mana, and that includes, you know, going for something like Assassin's Trophy and Tarmogoyf in the same turn. So once it gets kind of late game like this, we are sitting at turn 10. Oh, whew. Opponent's going to get down Stronghold. It's going to be a ton of activations off Bloodfast. Basically, this deck kind of tops out. It feels like I'm playing Commander at this point right now. We got... Okay, yeah, that's going to be Kalitas. Okay, that's going to take care of Kalitas, and we're going to Argos Bloodfast activation, and yeah, they just made a ton of mana off Stronghold, so you can definitely see where, this is where I like recording in the tournament practice room, because sometimes you just get hit with just, let's go for Zombie on, I guess Snapcaster Mage at this point right now. We'll go for Snapcaster Mage, we'll trade on that one, that's going to put us down to 2. And then we'll see what we can get going, but it's not looking so hot if you're keeping score at home. Oh, we get hit with Messenger to close the game out. Okay, good game to our opponent. That is everything that you want to see in Mono Black right there. 0-2 against Mono Black, so they're going to take it on this one. I mean, this is what makes Modern fun sometimes. You can definitely see where Obnixilis, Gonti, they got it done on this one. You know, we weren't necessarily mana screwed on this one. We had a lot of threats on the battlefield. We had Grim Flayer, we had Tarmogoyf, we had Death Shadow, we had Gurmag Angler, we had Stubborn Denial, Abrupt Decay. I mean, we had some serious threats on the battlefield, and our opponent answered those threats. So definitely a good game to our opponent. They earned this game for sure. So if you're a Mono Black control enthusiast or Mono Black deck enthusiast, this is a good starting point for you to go for. So if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye. Welcome to Sultai Delver. As far as opening hand goes, yes, I love this. We've got double baubles, and we've got Death Shadow. I don't know, double bauble sounds funny. It's a funny word. Recording too long at this point, but yes, we've got double baubles, and I think I'm thinking of Double Trouble or something. There's something like Nintendo game, like Bubble Bobble, I think. That's where you have like the little like rotating thing that I know I'm not explain. I'll put something up on this image on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about, because I sound like a crazy person at this point right now. But it's actually one of my favorite games, Super Nintendo games that I played growing up. All right, so that's enough rambling. Let's go and get down Polluted Delta. Let's go for double Mishra Baubles. Yes, indeed. Oh yeah, and let's go and crack Polluted Delta, because we simply just don't want to draw into one of our fetch sources. Let's go and shock this one in. Let's go and go for Mishra's Bauble up top, double Mishra's Bauble. Always love doing those activations as quickly as possible. That way, its opponent's just like, my gosh, what sort of ant pile did we step into? So we draw into Misty, and then we draw into our very own Fatal Push. So we're actually in a really good position to you know, we'll see what we're playing against. We did see Temple of Enlightenment and Seachrome Coast, so we're more than likely playing against probably some sort of blue-white, blue-white Teferi build, some sort of control. Maybe Jeskai. We'll see if they get down some sort of red source. And we draw 2 Thoughtseize. That is pretty much exactly what we want to see. Let's go and get down Polluted Delta, and then let's go and go for Thought Seeds. That way we can kind of see what our opponents got cooking in their kitchen. Oh, we're playing against Ad Nauseam, duh. Okay, so we're looking at Angel's Grace, Lightning Storm, Pact of Negation, and then Phyrexian Unlife. I think at this point right now, since we do have Assassin's Trophy, we can go for that Phyrexian Unlife. Let's go and go for Lightning Storm. I don't know how many copies of Lightning Storm Ad Nauseam runs in here, but we definitely want to take one of their win conditions. That's going to be Lightning Storm. So let's go and take Lightning Storm. Let's going to go into the graveyard. We could end up going for Angel's Grace if we wanted to, but I kind of like this one. So we go Shock. That's 14, 12, puts us down to 12. Yeah, let's go and go for that. Let's go and crack Polluted Delta, and we'll be able to get down Death Shadow. Let's go ahead and Shock in Overgrown Tomb. Then we'll make a little baby Death Shadow, little 1/1 baby. Don't even know a word yet, but next turn we're looking at making it a 2/2 with a crack, and then a 4/4 with the Shock off of Misty. So at least be able to kind of get that going. They do get down Gemstone Mine. Let's go and cross that off, and they're going to go for Phyrexian Unlife. So we'll go and cross that off too. Now they can go for Angel's Grace and Spoils of the Vault. At this point right now, we're probably going to end up going for Assassin's Trophy on that Phyrexian Unlife, just to get rid of that. That particular interaction. Draw the Tarmogoyf. Let's go and get down Misty. Let's go and crack Misty. In fact, let's go and go for it now. They can go for Pact of Negation if they want to, but they'll lose the game. So that's on them if they want to do that. Let's go and Shock in. We do have Blooming Marsh in our hand. Let's go and Shock in Watery Grave. It's going to make it a 4/4. Let's go for Assassin's Trophy on Phyrexian Actually, we'll wait. That way they don't have access to any sort of Path to Exile effect or something. Let's go and swing it for 4. It's going to put them down to 16. And then let's go ahead and go for Assassin's Trophy on Phyrexian Unlife. It's been, and I will say this, it's been a long time since I've played against Ad Nauseam. So if I do any certain, oh, you should have saved this for that, I'm basically just getting out there now that may be a mistake that I make in this particular matchup. But typically Lightning Storm's the thing that you want to watch out for. So I'm going to try my best to remember the matchups against Ad Nauseam, but you just really hadn't seen a lot of Ad Nauseam recently. It just don't. It was pretty popular there for a little while, but I'm a little rusty in this particular matchup, so I just wanted to get that out there that if I make a sequencing error on my part, that is why. All right, so let's see what we draw into. Draw into Swamp. Do we want to? Actually, we're going to get down Blooming Marsh because we don't really necessarily need double Fatal Push. I was going to get down Blooming Marsh. I was going to swing in with a 4/4 Death Shadow. And basically at this point right now, as far as sideboarding goes, we still want to be as aggressive as possible against our opponent. So we're not going to really shift in any sort of mid-range match. We're simply just going to keep the course of being an aggressive Sultai deck. Put them down to 12. Let's go ahead and go for Tarmogoyf, Mr. Tarmogoofy himself. And that will be a 5/6 thanks to that enchantment in the graveyard. And we're getting close to representing some sort of lethal pretty soon. We get down a fetch land that's going to put us at 5. That'll be 10. Then Shock will put us up to 7, and that will be 12 total damage. So let's see if we can't get that going. That'll be lethal. They can't go for Angel's Grace if they want to, but let's see if we hit that fetch land. Oh, beautiful. Let's go and get that fetch land down. Let's go and swing in with the 5/6 and a 4/4. Go to blockers. Let's go and crack Polluted Delta, and we'll see if we can't start some sort of action out of their hand. Let's go and crack Polluted Delta. We'll make it a 5/5 and a 5/6. And hopefully that shouldn't. Spoils of the Vault. Choose a card name, reveal cards until you hit that card, and then you lose 1 life for each card exiled this way. Okay. They go for Spoils of the Vault. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, and I think, what did our opponent go for? Phyrexian Unlife. They named Angel's Grace. Okay. So that's still going to allow us to, yeah, we'll go for the Pluto. Sorry, they kind of threw, I was trying to see what they went for. So they ended up going for Angel's Grace. They're going to go for Angel's Grace, and then that will put them at 1 total life. They'll still go and shock this one in. Well, do we need to shock it in at 6? I guess, yeah, why not? We'll make the Tarmogoyf bigger. Let's go and grab a Pluto Delta. Yeah, we're going to shock that in. It's going to make a 7. That will be at 12. Puts them down to 1. And then anything else, we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. So, hopefully we draw into some sort of fetch land. That way if you do get into a position to where it is Simian Spirit Guide beat stick time, we can at least kind of clear the way for us to swing in. Now, with them having, I can't remember exactly what they had, Spoils of the Vault, they did go for that. They do have Pact of Negation. With Spoils of the Vault, until you reveal a card with that name, you lose 1. Alright, so basically I think We've only seen one sea crumb. All right, Poto's going to scoop it up, so I think we got it on that one. That is nice. As far as what we want to bring in, let's just simply just bring in 2 Abrupt Decays, and I think I kind of like bringing in double Liliana of the Veil on this one. That way we can really start attacking our opponent's life total. Let's simply just go and back off some of the baubles, and if we wanted to, we could bring in a few more lands, just to kind of help smooth it out. But yeah, let's do that. Let's go and back off 1 Grimog Angler. And we'll back off 1 Grim Flayer. Let's go and bring in a Watery Grave and an Overgrown Tomb. And that way we're still pretty low to the ground with Delver and Death Shadows and Fatal Pushes. But actually, we don't really necessarily need Fatal Pushes that bad because we're just looking at basically Simian Spirit Guide, and Abrupt Decay can go for that. So let's go and cut the Fatal Pushes. And we can simply just bring in Spell Bomb, just I guess get a little bit of action from ourselves. Or if we want to bring in Mishra's Bauble. Yeah, let's do that. Let's bring in 3 Mishra's Baubles. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Could bring in Tarmogoyf if we want to. Actually, let's bring in 1 Tarmogoyf. All right, there we go. I like that. That'll be a good way for us to get some good threats going. And there we go. 1 more Tarmogoyf. Okay. Sorry about that. See you in Game 2. Welcome back to Game 2. Now, as far as opening hand goes, we've got a beautiful opening hand. We have Delver of Secrets. We have Tarmogoyf. Yes, this is pretty much everything that we want to see. We've got 2 fetch lands. We have a Leyline of the Void, so we're not going to be able to target our opponent with any sort of hand disruption. So this is going to be a race. Let's see if we can get this done. Opponent's going to build their pillow fort and hide behind hide in Big O Plains Field. And they're off to a pretty good start. They've got Lotus Bloom and then Sleight of Hand, so we've got a pretty good clock going. But thankfully, with them doing stuff, hopefully we can get a really good clock going with Tarmogoyf, and especially once we get down Delver. If we can get lucky and get Delver to flip, that would absolutely be wonderful. And draw 2 Overgrown Tomb. If we're going to get down Death Shadow or something like that, we're going to be pretty aggressive with these shock lands. So let's go ahead and crack Polluted Delta. Let's go and grab a black-blue sword. So let's grab Watery Grave, and let's go and get down Delver of Secrets. And then we're going to go and pass turn to our opponent. So we're looking at potentially a 3-2 next turn in the air if we get Delver to flip. We do have Abrupt Decay. Unfortunately, Abrupt Decay will not stop that Legging Line of 17T, but if they do end up getting Phyrexian and Unlife on the battlefield, that will allow us to go for Abrupt Decay. Let's see if we hit that card on top. Come on. Watery Grave. That will not flip Delver. That does not flip Delver. It does not. If we want to, I kind of like going for Grim Flayer. Let's go Polluted Delta. Let's go and crack Polluted Delta. Let's go and shock in a Overgrown Tomb. Yes, we will definitely pay 2 life on this one. Let's go ahead and go for Grim Flayer. And we're just going to throw the entire kitchen sink at our opponent. Let's go swing in with that Delver of Secrets. There we go. Swinging in for 1. It's going to put them down to 19. And then we'll go and pass turn to our opponent. Slowly counting down to that Lotus Bloom. If you don't know how Ad Nauseam works, basically, they use Angel's Grace to kind of negate some of their life, life loss, and they use Lightning Storm to win the game. All right, and then we draw into another Watery Grave. No, not going to reveal that. That is unfortunate. So we draw into an additional Watery Grave. Let's go and swing in with the Grim Flayer. And that'll at least be 3 that we're swinging across with. It's going to put them down to 16, and basically we could set up a really nice Grim Flayer activation and also really kind of work towards Tarmogoyf. That's one of the cool things about Grim Flayer in this deck is that it just has some really nice synergy with our creatures. We can build up a really nice Tarmogoyf, we can build up a really nice Grimog Angler, we can set up a nice Delver of Secrets. There's just a lot of things that Grim Flayer does for this deck, and it turns into a 4-4 once we... It was Watery Grave, Misty. Let's go and put that into the graveyard, and graveyard. We do not want any of that. And that is a ton of lands, my gosh. Let's go and get down Tarmogoyf. And do we want to get down Dark Slick Shores? No, if we're working a clock on our opponent, yeah, we want to do that. Let's go and shock in Overgrown Tomb, and we're going to go and pass turn to our opponent. So, hopefully, fingers crossed, we get that Delver to flip next turn, and we'll be able to survive this double Lotus Bloom from our opponent. Well, at least the second Lotus Bloom will be here in a little bit. But I think, to my knowledge, they need Angel's Grace to go off. They need Spoils. Yeah, we might be seeing them going off at this point right now. I think once they get to about 5 mana, that allows them to go off. Simian Spirit Guide, okay, and they're going to go for Ad Nauseam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed the video up at this point, and then once they kind of show the win on the stack, then we'll go and scoop it up. And then once they exile 3 Simian Spirit Guides, there's going to be 1, 2, and the Gemstone Mines. And then once they get Lightning Storm on the stack, we're going to go and scoop it up. So Just want to see it on the stack. We did see them reveal it, but it's just one of those. I kind of want to see what they've got going on in their deck. So good game. Good game to our opponent. We'll go ahead and save them some clicking. But yeah, we got to see what they've got going on. Nothing we really need to worry about. I mean, it's just simply just, you know, pretty much doing. They got Lab Maniac, so if we wanted to leave something in there, we could, but we'll see. Now, as far as anything else that we want to bring in, I still think we're good. We could bring in Nile Spellbomb just to be some sort of card draw at this point right now, but I like being as low to the ground as possible on this one. I like Grizzly Salvage. Liliana the Veil is going to be attacking there. I guess technically we could cut Liliana the Veil. Yeah, let's do that. Let's get rid of 2 of those. Let's bring in Nile Spellbomb. That way we can just have some sort of card draw, just in case we end up in a position to where we have double Watery Graves and 3 more fetch lands on top. I know Grimflayer had a shock look on his face. He said, my goodness, that's too many lands. Me too, Grimflayer, me too. All right, so let's get our graveyard popped up. So we've got Watery Grave, we've got Snapcaster, Stubborn Denial. I don't really like this opening hand. You want to have at least a green source in here. And let's go and mulligan. Ooh, that is yucky. I was going to go 1 more mulligan. I guess we keep on this one. Maybe we get lucky with a quick Delver. Polluted Delta, that is exactly what we want to see. We're going to put that on top, and then they do have Leyline again. So let's go and go for Dark Slick Shores. Let's go and go for Delver Secrets, and then anything else, we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. Now, one of the things that you can do to combat Ad Nauseam is you can, if you're playing Mill, and if you hit Lightning Storm and you hit... if you hit a couple different Simian Spirit Guides, you can kind of stop them from going off. So if you're playing Mill, that's definitely one way to stop Ad Nauseam. There's one time I was playing Polluted Delta. No, not going to reveal that. We draw into that. Let's go and get down Polluted Delta. Let's go and swing in with Delver of Secrets. Now, at this point right now, with a Stubborn Denial, we have some sort of answer for if they go for something like Phyrexian Unlife or something like that. So we're going to hold on to Stubborn Denial at this point right now. We can go for Thought Scour. I think I kind of like going for that instead of Nile Spellbomb. So let's just go and pass the turn, and then we'll see what we're going to do with Nile Spellbomb. But at this point right now, with Stubborn Denial, we want to see if we can't catch one of their value pieces like a Phyrexian Unlife. But yeah, if you start milling, do we want to go for Stubborn Denial? If they're digging, this would be a great way to kind of stop any sort of card advantage. Is it worth us going for that? Yeah, let's go for it. Let's crack Polluted Delta. Let's go with Shock and Breeding Pool. Yeah, I'm okay with this one. If they're digging and maybe they don't have that good of, you know, sometimes you end up with some really clunky hands with this deck. So let's go for Stubborn Denial and keep fingers crossed that they simply just don't have a land drop to get down. That's what we're kind of going for. We didn't see Lotus Bloom. No, excuse me. We did see Lotus Bloom come down. But maybe, okay, no, they do have Gemstone Mine. All right, excuse me. It was at least worth a shot in this one because as the game drags on, we just can't really get much done. So let's go and get down Thought Scour. We'll start digging for some sort of answer. Ooh, Assassin's Trophy. I like that. That'll allow us to kind of stop something like Phyrexian Unlife. Okay, let's get Delver of Secrets going. Misty, not going to reveal that one. And then let's go and get down Misty. Probably end up going for Nile Spellbomb too. Let's go and swing it for 1. Eventually, we will get this Delver to flip. He's just being a little shy at this point right now. A little bit of stage fright. Let's go ahead and get down Nile Spellbomb. And then that way we can at least crack it next turn, get rid of our opponent's graveyard, and then get a little bit of extra card draw going. All right, so we've got double Lotus Boom suspended at this point right now. If we had some sort of heavy hand disruption in our hand, we could go for Leyline. But I think at this point, we're simply just going to go ahead and, yeah, let's go and crack Misty. We're going to grab a green-black source. Let's go and grab Overgrown Tomb. We're going to pay 2 life. Let's go and crack Nile Spellbomb, exile our opponent's graveyard. Actually, we'll just, well, we're going to exile our graveyard. Actually, now that I think about it, yeah, because they have Leyline of Sanctity, which is not going to help. So, yeah, we'll simply just leave it like that. Delver of Secrets into another Delver. No, not going to reveal that one. We'll still get down Delver and then kind of go from there. Let's get down Delver. And if we need to go for Nile Spellbomb next turn, we certainly will. That does basically cut us off. That's going to be Polluted Delta, Stubborn Denial's an instant, Grimflayer's a creature. So we do have 3 card types in the graveyard if we get down something like Tarmogoyf or Grimflayer. And unfortunately, it will cut us off Gurmag Angler. But at this point right now, with us staring down a Lotus Bloom that is ticked up to 1, that's going to be coming off next turn. So we'll see what we can get going as far as our side of the battlefield. Now, I guess technically we could force Assassin's Trophy on Lotus Bloom, but we're staring down another Lotus Bloom for next turn, so we're just going to go and hold on to Lotus Bloom at this point and hope that they don't have it. But just like Infect, they always do. Sometimes. Alright, so at this point now, with Lotus Bloom coming down, I think we need to go for Nile Spellbomb, exiling our graveyard. It's not the best, but if we're going to get it done, it's going to be double Delvers in the air, and we'll go and pay that black mana. We just want to draw a card. Okay, drawn to Island. Thankfully, at least that wouldn't have that kept our Delvers from flipping. See what the top card of our library is, and that is what? What was that? Is that another Nile Spellbomb? No, that was the Exile Zone. The reveal zone. Oh, Thought Scour. Finally. Okay. Yes, we definitely want to reveal that. It's going to get Delver to flip. Thankfully, yes, we'll definitely go for that. Drawing the Thought Scour. Let's go ahead and get down Island. Let's go and go for Thought Scour. That way we can kind of rebuild our graveyard and see what we want to draw into. Okay, but it's going to go for Fatal Push on our Delver. Yeah, that's fine. We still have one Delver on the battlefield. And actually going to go for Thoughtseize. So at this point right now, we could go for Assassin's Trophy on Leyline and then go for Thoughtseize. I think I kind of like that. If they got their key card in their hand, yeah, let's do that. Let's go for Assassin's Trophy. Helps if we tap for black first. Let's go for Assassin's Trophy, and then we'll be able to go for Thoughtseize, kind of see what our opponent's got going on in their kitchen. And then maybe that might allow us to at least kind of make this not be a instant win for our opponent. So that will give them another land on the battlefield, and we'll still go for Thoughtseize up top. So let's go for that. It was a wonderful draw of Thought Scour. And then, ooh, double Ad Nauseam. Okay. Now, they do have 4 copies of that, Pact of Negation. So we're looking at Ad Nauseam next turn. They crack that. We get rid of 1 Ad Nauseam. They still need an Angel's Grace at this point right now. Yeah, if we draw into another removal piece, then we can get that done. Yeah, let's go for it. Basically, if we're playing to our outs and we top deck another Thoughtseize, that's going to allow us to get rid of the other Ad Nauseam. But let's go and get the revealed cards popped up right there. Let's go and swing in for a 3-2 with Delver. It's going to put them down to 14, and then we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. So we're looking at Ad Nauseam, but they don't really have Angel's Grace or another way to kind of negate that life loss from Ad Nauseam. I'm not entirely sure if they can get enough done if they simply just go for Ad Nauseam, so I think, hopefully, it is a little bit of a clock. We've got like a 5-turn clock with Delver, but it's something. You know, if we get down something like Tarmogoyf, if we are looking at creature in the graveyard, land, instant, and then sorcery. So we're looking at least a 4-5 and an enchantment from our opponent. So that will be at least a 5-6 on Tarmogoyf. And we'll see what else they can get going. Now, they do have Pact of Negation. They can't stop something from us, but typically they want to save Pact of Negation for something that's going to stop their combo, or something like Assassin's Trophy on one of their pieces. All right, they're going to get a land down. So we know exactly what's in their hand. It's going to be Ad Nauseam and Pact. We are off to the races. Let's go and swing in with Delver. Maybe we can get it. I'll take it. You know, win's a win sometimes. Let's go and swing in for 3. And do we want to shock in Overgrown Tomb? I think at this point, we just hold on to Overgrown Tomb. We could get it down and work towards our life total, but at this point right now, if we could somehow stop our opponent, or maybe just kind of keep them guessing on something, or maybe they have hand destruction of their own, that'll force them to use it. But at least next turn, we'll probably end up shocking it down. That way we have at least a little bit of a bigger Death Shadow. All right, we're drawing to Nile Spellbomb. Let's go and get that down, because we can actually, at this point right now, we can crack that and exile our opponent's graveyard. Let's go and crack that, exile our opponent's graveyard. Let's go and pay black on this one. Draw the Tarmogoyf. This is exactly what we want to see. That's going to get rid of their graveyard. Let's go and swing in with Delver for a 3-2. It's going to knock them down to 8. And let's go and get down. Let's go and shock in Overgrown Tomb. And let's go and get down Tarmogoyf. It's going to be a 5-6, and then that does put us at lethal for next turn. So they're basically going to have to go off this turn, or find another piece of removal to get rid of either Delver or Tarmogoyf. So at least we forced them. We put a little scare in them at this point right now. They're basically going to have it this turn. All right, so we're looking at Gemstone Mine. Oh, yes, I love it. It's Hardcast Simian Spirit Guide time. I love it. We draw to Death Shadow. Let's go and swing in with Delver and Tarmogoyf. This is one of my favorite times playing against Ad Nauseam. I don't know why. It's just, you know, you've got Simian Spirit Guide. His main duty in this deck is to let them cast Lightning Storm. But whenever it's just my main thing with Hardcast Simian Spirit Guide is basically that, like, when you see people playing this deck in paper, and you know how, you know, certain players, when they're, you know, playing in a high stakes tournament, they need to you know, they have a look on their face, it's a very serious look. It's just seeing them tap 3 mana and then Simian Spirit Guide, and I kind of looking at their opponent like, is this good? And then it's just one of the best times in Magic. So like I mentioned, we do have at least lethal next turn. We are looking at 3 from, you know, Death Shadow and Delver. We have 5 from Tarmogoyf. If they have to get another creature down, if they go double Simian Spirit Guide, they can. But if they don't find an answer, then hopefully, I think that might be the game for us. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Oh no, do they have it? All right, they're gonna go for Ad Nauseam. I think what they're gonna try to do is, and I think they revealed right off the top, I think they revealed Ad Nauseam. I think that's what, no, let's see, is that the reveal? Yeah, right off the top they revealed Ad Nauseam, so they put them down to 0. So at that point they were just hoping to, I guess, get into like Angel's Grace or something. But anyway, we're going to take it against Ad Nauseam. It's always nice to beat this deck. It always feels really good, because it just, at any point, you're just like, you're always on edge about, am I going to lose or not? But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the Delver series. I hope you enjoyed this series. If you're a fan of Sultai, if you play Delver in Modern, hop in the comments. Let me know what you think. This is basically, when I build these Modern decks, these are just a starting point. That way, if you have any sort of suggestions, we can kind of go from there. But yes, that's going to wrap it up for these series. If you enjoyed the videos, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more awesome MTG content just like this. And make sure to tap the bell icon to be notified whenever a video is made live. If you want to keep watching content, here are 2 more videos for you. This video and many others are sponsored by MTGO Traders and Cape Fear Games. Buy and sell digital singles to build your online collection today with MTGO Traders, and get your paper singles, accessories, and much more from Cape Fear Games. Whatever your Magic needs, both places have you covered.